Okay, I think we're all assembled here. This next session is really building off of the two sort of keynote launch speeches we had to really kind of get a bit more granular in terms of exploring the motivations for partnerships, what kind of works, what doesn't work, and what people are thinking would be good solutions going forward. And we're delighted to have a member of our planning committee in the chair, Elaine Gibbons from PATH, and she will be taking over. And I hand it over to you, Elaine.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. So I'm delighted to be chairing this panel with such an interesting and diverse group, and we have a practical demonstration from one of my colleagues here. So I hope that we'll have the only panel that will actually be doing some activity, which will be kind of fun. So I'm going to briefly introduce the panel here, and there are full bios in the pack, so I'm not going to go into all the details. But I'd like to welcome Alison Tuman-Campos from Procter & Gamble, Lauren Marks from the State Department, US State Department, Leslie Graham from the Gates Foundation, Carl doesn't have a second name that I can pronounce, at least. We did practice at the break, but I didn't do a good enough job. So I'm going to go Carl. Carl is from Co-Red, and David Oot from Save the Children. So welcome to you all. Thank you very much. I thought I might make a few remarks and then open up to my colleagues for deeper discussion. So for me, a lot of what we've talked about this morning comes down to this notion, this concept of fit for purpose. So do we today have single institutions or facilities that are well equipped and well suited for their original role and purpose? And I think the simple answer is no, that we do not, that the role of the different sectors, government, civil society, private sector is changing so significantly that we really have recognized that one sector alone can't solve the major societal problems that we face. And in fact, there's a very interesting, many of you have probably read it, KPMG report that they created for the World Economic Forum on the future role of civil society that concluded, and I'm just going to read a couple of points here from their conclusions because I think it really illustrates this notion of collaboration and what really is fit for purpose, that they are noting a greater degree of activity to address the societal challenges within each sector and more integration across the shared spaces between sectors, that sectors are less segmented and responses are less independent, that the new frameworks for collaboration and innovation are resulting from those intersections between the sectors. And therefore, there's a blurring of the traditional roles. They cite several examples of hybrid organizations and multi-sector partnerships that are developing over time. And one institution that's been involved in commitments and partnerships for a long time is the Clinton Global Initiative, as you know, and they now have 10 years worth of pretty good and interesting data. And I'm not sure if it's the arrival of a more prominent role of Chelsea Clinton and her McKinsey background, but they really do seem to be looking much more at data in that organization, and have reported recently that commitments that include partnerships are certainly the most successful ones. Philanthropic donations in terms of commitments to make those donations are dropping, and they're seeing an increase from 2005 to 2013 from 66 to 91% of commitments, including partnerships. So, you know, I think there's some broad and credible rationale for that notion that the existing structures are not fit for purpose in the way that we would want. Just as I thought a little bit about how to bring this panel together, I thought it would be useful to set the very large stage of what is it that's really impacting our desire to partner. And there are some, this is not exhaustive, but there are some very large issues that are driving us to this conversation, I think. and some of them are listed here. So as I've mentioned, the model is changing. Business, government, and civil society is changing, and recognize that we can't impact at scale independently, but it requires broad multi-sector engagement. We do see that new frameworks for collaboration, social business is a great example of that. The sources of capital are changing. There's a reduced certainty in funding, size, and models from the traditional donors. As we've talked a little bit about already this morning, foreign direct investment is now coming from emerging economies, the example of China and Africa. And the model is changing from the perspective of at Path, we call it country as customer. And it really is about looking to the low resource settings to drive innovation, to articulate need, and for both the funding and the model to change in order to support that. From a private sector standpoint, you know, new products, new customers, new markets, the relevance of emerging markets and low and middle income countries as a very relevant consumer base is critical. Certainly we see the role of the innovative and engaged CEO and often C-suite at large organizations as really important. They are increasingly involved in these broad forums that discuss issues around the engagement of the private sector. Certainly the role of technology, from my perspective, is extremely interesting. Not only do we see the increase in transparency because we can get access to information more quickly, and speed of the sort of the role of non-hierarchical social networks and their ability to engage and ensure participation is significant. But really interestingly, I think the access to data and improved visualization and dissemination tools around data. So organizations like Tableau and Palantir are doing some amazing work to make data more available, which improves the opportunity for more structured impact and intervention, and I think can also bring really a different conversation when you have such different cultures and different educational experiences. And so the role of the private sector there, I think, is significant. However, from my perspective, and I'm really interested to hear how the panel will frame this morning, it really is about the hard and messy work of implementation. So we have to recognize that, yes, the world is forcing this conversation, the models are changing, the needs are changing, but how do we ready our organizations in order to take advantage of that? So the notion of organizational readiness is critical. A vision and a strategy. So being clear about what each partner brings, the resources and the relationships that can be brought to bear on the problem, and understanding the implications of managing a portfolio of opportunities. So this is really about, if we reflect on Laura's comments, the suite of engagements, whether it's philanthropic, corporate social responsibility, or shared value. I would argue that you need to have an organization with a private sector or a non-profit needs to have a portfolio of opportunities, but with that comes significant levels of management. We need talent, multi-sector talent. So whether it's learning the right language, whether it's learning how to navigate the different space of private sector and non-profit. I come from the private sector, I'm now in non-profit, and it's really different. And so creating an operating model that will allow your internal infrastructure, your reporting mechanisms, your financial structures, your technology, actually to support different kinds of partnerships and different kinds of alliances is it's as much a behavior change issue as it is a sort of a technology and process change issue. the importance of measurement and reporting. We have to prove that partnerships are effective for all stakeholders. And FSG is doing some quite interesting work with other partners in the accounting space to look at ways to monetize impact and value in a way that makes more sense to the analysts. My personal opinion is until we're able to get the financial analysts to actually start reporting the impact differently, it's going to continue to be an uphill battle. And then this difficult work of attracting, developing, and retaining these partnerships. It really is a different relationship from the ones that we have had, I think, in the nonprofit sector historically with the private sector. So the need is there. The move is happening. We have to continue to ensure that we are ready as organizations to create these shared structures and develop impact and value as a result of that. But it's hard, sort of roll your sleeves up kind of work. And so with that, I'm really delighted to ask my colleagues here to give me their views on the motivations and how they are readying themselves to take advantage of it. And we'll start with Alison.